Did you know that over 280,000 people in the UK are currently homeless? And many of them aren't living in tents or on the streets, but in places you'd never expect. Quiet, leafy suburbs. Commuter towns. Family-friendly neighborhoods. Homelessness is no longer just a city crisis. It's creeping into the very heart of Middle England, fast. In some areas, rough sleeping has doubled in just 2 years. Families with full-time jobs are being evicted with nowhere to go. People who once owned homes are now living in cars or sofa surfing to survive. So what's really happening behind the scenes in these peaceful towns? Which UK suburbs are seeing the fastest rise in homelessness, and why is nobody talking about it? Stick around, because the #1 suburb on this list might be where you live, or where you're planning to move. Number 10. Reading. Berkshire, once known as a thriving commuter town for London workers, Reading is now facing a housing emergency that's been years in the making. With its excellent transport links, strong job market, and vibrant cultural scene, Reading has long attracted families and professionals looking for a better quality of life outside the capital. But behind the glossy new developments and modern office blocks, a darker reality is unfolding. Homelessness is rising fast, and it's hitting people you'd never expect. According to local council reports, the number of people facing homelessness in Reading surged by nearly 40% since 2022. The average rent for a 2-bedroom flat has soared past, while wages for many residents have stayed the same, or worse, fallen in real terms due to inflation. For low-income earners and even middle-income families, affording rent has become nearly impossible. Evictions under Section 21 no-fault laws are a growing problem, leaving tenants with little protection when landlords decide to sell up or increase rents. Meanwhile, the waiting list for social housing in Reading has ballooned to over 6,000 households, with some waiting years just to be considered for a flat. But it's not just the numbers that are shocking. It's the people behind them. Teachers, care workers, even NHS staff are finding themselves pushed out of their own communities. Many now live in temporary accommodation, hostels, or even their cars, all while still holding down full-time jobs. Local charities are overwhelmed, and the safety nets that used to protect vulnerable people are thin and full of holes. There's a growing sense that the system just isn't working anymore, and if it can happen in Reading, it can happen anywhere. Reading's crisis isn't just a local issue, it's a warning sign of what's coming for towns across the UK. A town once praised for opportunity is now a hotspot for hidden homelessness, and most residents don't even see it happening. If this story shocked you, hit that like button to spread awareness. Subscribe for more eye-opening videos like this, and drop a comment below. Have you seen signs of homelessness rising in your own town? Let's talk about it, because these stories deserve to be heard. Number 9. Wolverhampton, West Midlands, Wolverhampton. May not be the first place that comes to mind when you think of a homelessness crisis. But behind the city's industrial revival and regeneration projects lies a growing crisis hitting its youngest and most vulnerable residents. One of the biggest drivers of homelessness in Wolverhampton is the sharp rise in youth homelessness, particularly among young people leaving the care system. With limited support after turning 18, many care leavers find themselves unprepared for the harsh realities of managing housing, rent, and bills on their own. The moment they age out of the system, support often stops, but the need doesn't. According to local data, over 1,200 young people in Wolverhampton requested homelessness support in the last year alone. That's a 25% increase compared to pre-pandemic levels. Many of these individuals have no family safety net to fall back on. The hostels and emergency shelters available are often full or underfunded. What makes this even more troubling is the hidden nature of homelessness here. Many of Wolverhampton's homeless youth aren't sleeping on park benches. They're couch surfing, moving between friends' homes, or staying in unsafe temporary accommodation. Their homelessness is largely invisible to the average passerby, which makes it easier for the issue to be ignored by the broader public. Mental health is another major factor. With long NHS wait times and limited access to local counseling or support services, young people facing trauma or anxiety are often left to cope alone, and their mental health can rapidly spiral when combined with housing insecurity. Add to this a shortage of affordable rentals, rising living costs, and reduced youth services due to years of budget cuts. And you have a recipe for a generational housing crisis. Local organizations like YMCA, Black Country, and Base 25 are doing everything they can to provide safe spaces and guidance, but they're working under incredible pressure, often relying on volunteers and donations to stay afloat. Wolverhampton's situation is a stark reminder that homelessness doesn't always look like someone sleeping on the street. It can look like an 18-year-old just out of care, holding a college bag and no idea where they'll sleep tonight. And it's happening more than ever before. Number 8. Bristol, Southwest England. Bristol, often celebrated as one of the UK's most progressive and creative cities, is now facing a deepening homelessness crisis that's hidden behind its trendy cafes, vibrant street art, and booming tech sector. The same economic growth that has attracted thousands to this city is also pushing many longtime residents out, with rising rents, gentrification, and housing shortages creating the perfect storm. Over the past 5 years, Bristol has seen an explosion in property prices. The average rent for a one-bedroom flat has climbed to over £1,200 per month, making it one of the least affordable cities in the UK outside of London. For residents on low or even average incomes, that means housing costs are now eating up the majority of their earnings, and for some, it's become completely unsustainable at the same time. The city's social housing supply is critically low. Council waiting lists have more than doubled, and the shortage of affordable homes means even families with urgent need are being placed in temporary accommodation miles away from their communities. In 2023 alone, more than 1,500 households in Bristol were registered as homeless, a figure that continues to climb. But the issue isn't just about affordability. The tech boom in Bristol has brought in a wave of high-income workers and luxury developments, which has drastically changed the rental landscape. Entire neighborhoods have been transformed, with landlords converting long-term homes into short-term lets or student housing, squeezing out families and key workers. There's also been a noticeable increase in visible rough sleeping, particularly around the city center and Temple Meads. Local charities report that people are not only sleeping on the streets, but doing so in worse conditions, with fewer resources available. Mental health issues, addiction, and a lack of support services make it even harder for individuals to break out of the cycle of homelessness once they fall into it. Despite the city's progressive image, the divide between the haves and have-nots is widening. In areas like St. Paul's, Easton, and Lawrence Hill, the tension is palpable. Long-term residents feel pushed out, priced out, and left behind as Bristol continues to grow. For many, Bristol is no longer the city of opportunity it once was. It's becoming a city where staying afloat is a daily struggle, even for those doing everything right. Number 7. Slough, Berkshire. Slough has long been known as one of the UK's industrial and logistical hubs, a town of warehouses, transport links, and hard-working communities. But over the last few years, this once thriving working-class town has found itself at the center of a growing housing crisis. Beneath the surface of new developments and business parks lies a staggering rise in homelessness, driven by job losses, rising rents, and a collapsing safety net. A significant factor in Slough's homelessness spike is the decline of the logistics and warehousing sector, especially after Brexit and the pandemic. As companies restructured or relocated, thousands of local jobs were lost, many of them held by families who were already living paycheck to paycheck. Suddenly, reliable incomes disappeared, and with them, the ability to keep up with rising rents and household bills at the same time. Slough's proximity to London has made it a pressure point for housing demand. As people are priced out of the capital, they spill into towns like Slough, driving up property prices and pushing out lower-income residents. Landlords are capitalizing on the demand, raising rents or turning properties into HMOs, houses in multiple occupation, where families are crammed into single rooms with shared facilities. The result? A growing number of working families forced into temporary accommodation. It's a sharp increase in rough sleeping in areas like the town center, underpasses, and train stations. Local reports show that the number of households in emergency accommodation has more than doubled since 2020. Food banks, like SLU Food Bank, are experiencing unprecedented demand. Families that once donated are now queuing up for parcels. Schools are reporting children arriving hungry and exhausted, many without a fixed address. It's a silent crisis. It's one that doesn't always show up in the headlines, but it's reshaping the lives of thousands, adding to the strain. Slough Borough Council has faced significant financial difficulties in recent years, including a £760 million debt crisis, which has forced cuts to services that might otherwise support struggling residents. Housing services are underfunded, overwhelmed, and often unable to respond quickly enough in Slough. The line between managing and homeless has become dangerously thin. People aren't just falling through the cracks in many cases. It feels like the floor has disappeared entirely. Number 6. Brighton and Hove, East Sussex. Brighton and Hove, with its vibrant art scene, iconic seafront, and reputation as a liberal haven, is often seen as one of the UK's most desirable places to live. But behind the colorful beachfront and the bohemian charm lies a city facing one of the highest homelessness rates outside London. The housing crisis here is no longer hidden, it's unfolding in plain sight. Recent figures suggest that 1 in every 78 people in Brighton is homeless or in unstable housing, a staggering statistic that's only worsened over the past 5 years. The reasons are layered, but at the heart of the crisis is a chronic lack of affordable housing. Brighton's popularity has made it a magnet for wealthier buyers and landlords, pushing property prices far beyond the reach of many locals as more properties are converted into short-term, holiday lets and second homes. The rental market has tightened drastically. The average monthly rent for a one-bedroom flat now exceeds £1,200, pricing out key workers, young people, and even middle-income families. Those reliant on housing benefits often find they don't come close to covering the actual costs, leaving many in desperate situations. The city's social housing stock is severely limited, and the waiting list continues to grow year after year. Some families are stuck in temporary accommodation for over 2 years, often living in cramped, unsuitable conditions. Others are moved miles away from their children's schools or support networks, disrupting every aspect of their lives. Brighton's homelessness issue isn't just about rough sleeping, although visible homelessness is on the rise. It's also about the hidden homeless, people living in vans, staying with strangers, or constantly moving to avoid sleeping on the streets. The city's rough sleeper count has increased dramatically, and local services are stretched to the breaking point. The seasonal nature of Brighton's economy only adds to the instability. Jobs in tourism and hospitality often disappear in the winter months, leaving many without steady income when they need it most. Meanwhile, mental health support and addiction services remain underfunded, making it even harder for those at risk to climb back up, for all its beauty and culture. Brighton and Hove is becoming a city where secure, affordable housing is now a luxury, not a right. And the people paying the price are often the ones who built the community in the first place. Number 5. Milton Keynes, Buckinghamshire. Milton Keynes is often seen as a symbol of modern urban planning, a city of roundabouts, rapid development, and growing business hubs. But while its population has expanded rapidly and its skyline continues to change, an invisible crisis has been growing alongside it. Homelessness is rising, and it's happening faster than most. People realize one of the biggest drivers is the relocation of homeless families from London boroughs. As inner-city councils struggle with their own housing shortages and sky-high rents, many are moving people to towns like Milton Keynes, where housing is slightly more affordable, at least on paper. But this strategy has put enormous pressure on the city's already limited housing stock and public services. Temporary accommodations in Milton Keynes are now filled to capacity, with families living in budget hotels, converted office blocks, or cramped hostels. Some are placed far from schools, jobs, and medical services. The council has reported a significant increase in homelessness applications, with more than 1,000 households currently in emergency or temporary accommodation. The city's rapid growth hasn't been matched with sufficient affordable housing, While shiny new developments continue to spring up, many are marketed towards professionals and investors, not low-income residents. Even so-called affordable housing schemes often require salaries that many in Milton Keynes simply don't earn, especially with the cost of living climbing. Another factor adding fuel to the fire is the condition of existing housing. Some families are being placed in substandard homes with serious issues like damp, broken heating, or poor insulation. These conditions not only affect physical health but also take a toll on mental well-being, especially for children growing up in such environments. For single adults, the options are even more limited. Hostels are overcrowded, support services are stretched, and those with mental health or addiction issues often find themselves on long waiting lists with no immediate help in sight. In many cases, they fall through the cracks entirely. Milton Keynes was designed to be a city of the future, a place of opportunity and innovation. But today it's facing a very real and very human challenge. As the population continues to grow, so does the need for sustainable housing solutions that don't leave the most vulnerable behind. Number 4. Blackpool, Lancashire. Blackpool, once the jewel of the British seaside, known for its piers, illuminations, and holiday crowds, now finds itself at the sharp end of the UK's homelessness crisis. Behind the bright lights and amusement arcades, the town is grappling with some of the highest homelessness rates in the country, fueled by poverty, mental health challenges, and chronic unmaisn't. Unlike in more affluent areas, homelessness in Blackpool is not a hidden issue. It's highly visible. In the town center, it's common to see people sleeping rough in doorways, wrapped in blankets, or pushing suitcases from one shelter to the next. But what's less visible is the growing number of individuals and families trapped in temporary or unstable accommodation. Unable to find a permanent place to live, a key factor behind this crisis is Blackpool's extremely high levels of deprivation. The town consistently ranks among the poorest local authorities in England, with some wards falling into the bottom 1% for health, education, and income. Many residents are locked into a cycle of low-paid work, zero-hour contracts, and rising living costs, making it nearly impossible to maintain stable housing. The private rental sector here is notoriously poor in quality. A large proportion of housing stock consists of run-down bedsits or former guest houses, converted into multiple occupancy dwellings. Many of these are owned by absentee landlords and offer little more than a roof, often with mold, vermin, and dangerous wiring. These low-standard rentals are often the only option for people on housing benefits or recently released from institutions, such as prison or care. On top of this, mental health and addiction issues are significantly higher in Blackpool than the national average. Yet local services are understaffed, underfunded, and overwhelmed. This leaves many residents without the help they need to break free from homelessness, creating a revolving door between the streets, emergency accommodation, hospitals, and sometimes even prison, despite various regeneration efforts. Long-term investment in housing and support services has been inconsistent. The result is a town where people fall into homelessness quickly and struggle to get back out. A far cry from the carefree seaside image that still clings to its reputation in Blackpool. Homelessness isn't a crisis waiting to happen. It's happening now, on nearly every street, and for many, there's nowhere left to turn. Number 3. Hastings, East Sussex. Hastings, with its dramatic cliffs, historic charm, and vibrant arts community, has become an increasingly popular destination for those looking to escape the pace and cost of life in London. But while the town has seen a surge in cultural appeal and outside investment, it's also become a surprising hotspot for homelessness, especially among longtime residents who are being pushed out by rapid change. Over the past decade, Hastings has experienced significant gentrification. As Londoners move in, attracted by the scenery and cheaper homes, property prices have soared. In fact, house prices in Hastings have risen faster than almost anywhere else in the southeast. What was once a haven for low-income families and artists has now become unaffordable for many locals, as wages have remained relatively stagnant. This shift has created a stark divide, while new cafes and galleries open along the seafront. More and more local people are finding themselves without a place to live. According to Shelter, rough sleeping in Hastings has doubled in just 3 years. Emergency accommodation is full, and the council is struggling to keep up with demand for housing support. One of the most alarming trends in Hastings is the rise in family homelessness. Families are being evicted from privately rented homes as landlords sell up or convert properties into Airbnbs. With limited social housing available, many are placed in temporary accommodations, often cramped, poorly maintained, and far from their children's schools or support networks. There is also a growing population of older people becoming homeless, a demographic that is often overlooked. With limited savings, rising energy bills, and no family to support them, some retirees are finding themselves facing eviction for the first time in their lives. Support services in Hastings are under severe pressure. Local charities like Seaview and the Hastings Housing Advice Service do incredible work, but they're often the last lifeline for people slipping through the cracks. Many individuals dealing with homelessness also face mental health struggles or addiction. And the lack of specialized care means recovery is a steep uphill battle. Hastings may look picturesque on the outside, but beneath the surface is a community in crisis, one where the very people who built its identity are being priced out, pushed aside, and left behind. Number 2. Luton, Bedfordshire. Luton has always been a town of contrasts, a place where diversity, resilience, and a strong sense of community shine through. But in recent years, it has also become a town under immense pressure. With one of the fastest growing populations in the UK and a rapidly shrinking supply of affordable housing, Luton is now facing a homelessness crisis that's escalating at an alarming pace. A major trigger has been the sharp rise in Section 21 no-fault evictions. Landlords can evict tenants without giving a specific reason. And in Luton, this legal loophole has become one of the leading causes of homelessness. As the buy-to-let market becomes less profitable due to rising mortgage rates and landlord costs, many property owners are opting to sell, leaving renters, including families, with just weeks to find alternative housing. But in Luton, finding a new place isn't easy. The rental market is severely overcrowded, and prices have surged beyond the reach of many working-class families. The average rent for a modest 2-bedroom flat now exceeds £1,200 per month. While average wages have failed to keep up, many residents are spending over half their income just to keep a roof over their heads, and even then, eviction looms constantly. The town has also been hit hard by post-pandemic job insecurity. While Luton's economy is historically tied to manufacturing, aviation, and logistics, sectors badly affected during and after COVID, the recovery has been uneven. Many households have slipped into debt, trying to stay afloat, and when eviction notices arrive, they have no financial cushion to fall back on. The result is a surge in applications for emergency accommodation. Luton Council has reported a dramatic increase in demand for temporary housing. But there simply aren't enough properties available. Families are being placed in hotels or housed miles outside of town, far from schools, support systems, and employment. Charities like NOAH Enterprise are on the front lines, offering food, shelter, and support, but they are overwhelmed. Mental health issues, language barriers, and limited access to legal advice make the path out of homelessness incredibly difficult for many. Luton's homelessness crisis is no longer a warning. It's already here. And for thousands of families, it's a daily battle to keep their homes, their dignity, and their hope. Number 1. Croydon, London Borough. Croydon, one of the largest boroughs in London, has become the epicenter of the UK's suburban homelessness crisis. And the speed at which the situation has deteriorated is nothing short of shocking. Once seen as a relatively affordable alternative to central London, Croydon is now facing some of the highest homelessness rates in the country, with thousands of residents at risk of losing their homes every single month, according to recent council reports. Croydon saw a 25% increase in homelessness applications in just 1 year. The borough is now spending millions annually on temporary accommodation, housing people in B&Bs, hostels, and converted office blocks, many of which are overcrowded and poorly maintained. For families with children, this means sharing a single room, often without proper cooking or washing facilities, For months on end, one of the main drivers of Croydon's crisis is the sharp rise in private rental costs, which have outpaced wages significantly. With the average rent for a two-bedroom flat nearing £1,600 per month, even full-time workers are struggling to make ends meet. Housing benefit caps haven't kept up, leaving many families with a gap they simply can't cover. Evictions are also happening at an alarming rate. Section 21 notices, which allow landlords to remove tenants without reason, are being issued across the borough. As a result, long-term residents, including elderly people, single parents, and disabled individuals, are being displaced from their communities with little notice and nowhere to go. Croydon's bankruptcy declaration in 2020 only deepened the crisis. With local services stretched to breaking point and budgets slashed, the council has struggled to respond to the growing demand for housing support. Meanwhile, new developments continue to pop up, but most are unaffordable to the very people who need housing most. Perhaps most heartbreaking is the hidden nature of much of this homelessness. Many are working full-time jobs, sending their children to school, and doing everything they can to stay afloat, yet they're living in temporary accommodation, sofo surfing, or just days away from sleeping rough. Croydon's situation is a stark warning. Homelessness isn't just a problem for the visibly destitute. It's becoming a daily reality for the working poor. And it's happening right now in the heart of suburban London. Homelessness in the UK is no longer confined to city streets. It's spreading fast through our suburbs, affecting families, workers, and communities in ways many never imagined. These aren't isolated cases. They're symptoms of a system under strain. If this video opened your eyes, hit the like button, subscribe for more real, hard-hitting stories, and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you seen signs of this in your area? Let's start a conversation that leads to awareness and hopefully action. Because behind every statistic is a person, and their story matters.